Are you frazzled, tired, and stressed beyond belief? Go to eastwesthealing.com/stress reduction manifesto to download your free 14-page guide to help you define exactly what you need to support yourself nutritionally, increase energy, and live the life that you deserve. Alrighty, this is Josh Rubin from East West Healing and Performance, and today I want to talk about back pain or low back pain, another school of thought. But before I do that, don't forget to sign up on our website for the Stress Reduction Manifesto. It's a free 14-page document that you can download for free, as well as like our video, share it, and check below in the description where you can find out where our blog is on our website, eastwesthealing.com, as well as our Twitter page, our Facebook page. You can stay tuned to that, as well as check out our metabolicblueprint.com cookbook website where you can download your first free chapter of our Metabolic Blueprint cookbook for free. So today, enough about that. Let's talk about low back pain, another school of thought. I'm going to go over a couple different instances. Of course, it could really be coming from anywhere. I'm not saying that sometimes low back pain is not low back pain, but we have to look at the body as a whole. We can't really focus on its pieces. So I'm going to go through a couple examples, and of course it's maybe a little deep in anatomy for you, or maybe not deep enough, but at the same time, my real goal here is to educate you that when you're working with someone, a manual therapist or someone to help you, you need to be working with someone that's looking at the body as a whole, and not just looking at if you have L4-5 disc issue, they're looking at L4-5. Or they're looking just at C0, C1, or the foot, the bones, etc., the muscles. There's so many factors that go into this, and if we ignore the whole of the person, which of course is looking at the physical aspect of it, but also looking at the fascial aspect of it, and looking at the visceral aspect of it, which I find most people completely ignore, or not, maybe don't get the education on, you're going to miss the boat. Maybe you get them out of pain and it comes back. Or maybe you actually can't get them out of pain. And that's why I started studying osteopathic manual therapy, because I was working with people with such chronic conditions, and what I was doing exercise-wise wasn't working, and just focusing on the bones. So if we focus on a couple things, first is, it's common in pregnancy for, after pregnancy, giving a vaginal birth, to have issues, we could say, with the mesentery and uterus and things because they hang down, they ptosis, hanging of organs. So what happens is you usually get a ptosis of the mesentery. A lot of the time it adheres to the uterus. A lot of the times because it's fascial connections to the sacrum and other aspects of the pelvic basin, you get a sharing of the L5 vertebrae, which of course can put tension in the L5, S1, L4-5 disc area. At the same time, will cause a downslip of the pelvis, which can lead to, of course, sacral and lumbar dysfunction. So a lot of the times when you get this, you'll see altered pressure mechanisms, altered absorption, altered excretion, and a lot of times because this ptosis and the mesentery adhering to the uterus and the shearing that's going on in the lumbar spine and the downslip, you'll have an inhibition, or we can say what people call reciprocal inhibition of the multifidus, and this is a muscle that is highly proprioceptive and very important, and a muscle that a lot of people focus on exercise-wise when trying to heal or rehabilitate low back pain. So that's example number one. Something to think about, something to look into, and something to assess. The second thing is, of course, there's many more. I'm just giving you some examples that I found when it comes to thinking of low back pain, another school of thought. And I'm not going to talk about C0, C1, and all these other issues. Of course, there's a million other visceral, dysfunctions and, C0, C1 issues or cranial issues or even issues in the knees and the feet that can cause this. The root of the mesentery. Now, the root of the mesentery goes basically from the DJ angle on the left to the, basically, we could say the cecum on the right. And it's in relation to the left transverse processes of L2, and in relation on the right to the right sacral hemibase anterior. And a lot of the times, now we have the mesentery, we have the coils, and we have the root of the mesentery. The mesentery hangs off the root of the mesentery. So if we have a ptosis of the mesentery, or if we have, that can be from many different things. It could be from abdominal weakness, it can be from being overweight, etc. If we have tension in the root of the mesentery, which is in relation to the areas that I just mentioned, as well as the left DJ angle and the right cecum, a lot of the times we'll see lumbar issues as well as sacral issues, as well as other issues. But we have to think about this, because if this tension in the root or ptosis in the mesentery, what typically happens, now of course you might find some other things, I'm just giving you what you might see. Because of this tension, is you're going to see an increased lumbar lordosis. And everyone's saying, no, you have increased lumbar lordosis, we need to strengthen this and weakness, inhibit this and stretch that to fix it. But what if it's coming from the root of the mesentery and not a muscle? And a lot of the times I'm finding it actually is. So it's going to increase lumbar lordosis. It's actually going to cause an increased compression in the lumbar spine. It's actually going to cause a fixation around L2, L3. And that's commonly because of tension in the pancreas in relation to the second duodenum, the hilus of the spleen, etc., because all fascions of the abdomen cross through or connect to the pancreas. And that kind of connecting point is the L2 vertebrae. So when you see a lot of fixations at L2, L3, you think pancreas fascially. So we see fixation at L2, L3, increased compression, increased lumbar lordosis, and we typically we'll see a side bending of the lumbar spine or a side bending of the lumbar spine through the lumbar spine, and a shearing of the lumbar spine to the right. Of course, this can cause low back pain, and everyone's focusing on stretching this and strengthening this, but a lot of the times it's actually coming from tension in the root of the mesentery, or ptosis, or the pancreas in relation to other organs, etc., that could be causing this. Now, it could be, ptosis of the stomach, or a compaction between the liver and the kidney, or this compaction between the spleen and the kidney that are causing this. There's many causations. I'm just giving you kind of the direct link. At the same time, when this is going on, I'm actually just had a brain fart. What we'll typically see, beside the increased lumbar lordosis, increased compression in the lumbar spine, etc., is you're typically going to see a right sacral axis lesion. So you'll see the sacrum kind of side bent left, rotate right. So the left hemibase is anterior. You'll typically see a left tight piriformis. Everyone wants to stretch this. You'll typically see pelvic floor issues on the left that need to be released first in order to regulate the pelvis, the sacrum, and the lumbar spine, and the mesentery. At the same time, because that sacral base is anterior, and you have issues in the root of the mesentery, what you'll see is tension in the sigmoid colon, as well as the sigmoid mesocolon. And the importance of this is the sigmoid mesocolon actually hangs off the disc of L4, L5. So if we have this kind of spiral effect going on, now we're going to have tension on the disc of L4, L5 because of root of the mesentery tension, because the sacrum is anterior, kind of the sigmoid mesocolon hanging down. We can say it's maybe ptosising or going inferior. Can of course cause issues in the right ileum, whether it's causing an inflare, an outflare, an anterior rotation, posterior rotation, etc., causing it to go inferior. But we see tension on the sigmoid mesocolon, which is putting tension on L4, L5. So hopefully you can see from some of these examples how issues with the mesentery and the uterus can cause dysfunction in lumbar spine, especially after pregnancy. This is very common because things are hanging. We're getting ptosis because of the fetus that's there. And we're getting a shift because of having the vaginal birth, which is causing a shearing through L5, or L5 itself, as well as issues with the root of the mesentery, the sacrum, the pelvis, and the sigmoid mesocolon, putting tension on the lumbar spine, a side bending on the lumbar spine, a shearing in the lumbar spine, a compression in the lumbar spine, as well as tension on L4, L5 because of the sigmoid mesocolon going inferior. So this is probably one of my quickest YouTube, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully it kind of stirs up the pot a little bit, gives you some insight, and when you do have low back pain, you have to look deeper into the person, look at the person as a whole, step away from the low back pain, assess them, and see where their low back pain is actually coming from. I'm out of here. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.